Live from New York City, it's the Gary Null Show. And now, your host, Gary Null.
Hi, everyone. I'm Gary Null. Always a pleasure to be able to share positive insights with you every day. We're heard all over the world, and I always select the information first based upon its accuracy, coming from a quality source with no bias. We have no politics, no agenda, just quality truths to share with you. For example, what's the one thing we could all do on a regular basis that could absolutely ensure the prevention of most diseases and live a longer life? Simple. Eat more fruits and vegetables, a whole spectrum of them. In fact, the different variety you eat, the different colors you consume, the different fibers they contain, the different phytonutrients and antioxidants, sometimes as many as 100 to 200 different phytonutrients per plant. So at the end of the day, every one of those is protecting your cells from premature damage, therefore keeping your DNA intact and keeping your chromosomes tightly bound by telomeres, and that assures a longer life. Why? Because all the scientific studies show that, including the latest that just last night, I submitted the final report after a group of 10 scientists that I don't know, never met, never spoken to, and they send their questions and challenges to a referee who then sends them on to me and says, for peer review, can you qualify this, prove this? And we do, because we had objective blood chemistry from 2 different laboratories and a university, plus all the subjective improvements. I can sleep better. So I can tell you the one thing that everyone had in common, we really put in the fruits and vegetables. Now, behind that, if you want to live a longer life, exercise every day. Ideally, I believe in the morning for about 45 minutes, in the early evening for about 45 minutes. That's helping you. Keeps your body mass index, your fat, down. It also stimulates muscle. It keeps stimulating the human growth hormone. This keeps you younger longer, and it keeps you cleaner inside. It's not pleasant to talk about, but if you were at an autopsy of the average American, especially when it's average and overweight, which is over 75% of Americans are overweight and over 65% are obese, and you were to open up the intestine, you would see that the entire intestinal tract is clogged with all types of debris. It's all kinds of fibers that are getting out of the body, bacteria getting out of the body, and a lot of protein, animal protein. In fact, in one case, it was 13 pounds. You heard me right, 13 pounds of impacted feces in one person. The key in life is as you eat a meal, you evacuate the remnants of a previous meal. You keep yourself regular. You keep yourself clean in the intestine. In fact, the health of the intestine is the health of the body. After all, we now know that you have what we considered similar to a neuron of the brain. You have those same things in the intestine. Your immune system really is strongest in the intestine. And then a healthy intestine, a healthy body. So these are just some of the things that we need to discuss and need to do. That said, having a positive disposition, having something worth living for, having a good support group of friends and family also accounts for adding years onto our life. Years ago, as a senior research fellow and director of the anti-aging division of the Institute of Applied Biology, I did a study. The study took about 5 years. And during that 5-year period, I traveled around the world, going to different countries, finding out that people live the same length of time if they live in the city versus the suburbs versus the country. And I found that the longest lived people were in the country. They were the least stressed. They were the most vigorous. They had the most physical activity in a day, most sat behind a desk. They didn't. They also had a closer relationship with their family and the extended people in their immediate community, in their village. And I met families that had lived in the same house for over 800 years. That's how far back their lineage went. And they had very specific customs, like in Italy, taking the siesta, taking the 2 to 3 hours every day to have a break. And that's where they discussed all the issues of the family. And that's where they would enjoy each other's company. And then they'd take a nap. And this was the way it has been for the millennia. And they are healthiest, most vigorous, have the less kind of diseases. Well, and that was also true at one time in the United States, because when people worked on farms, who lived on a farm, you generally had cleaner water, well water, than in cities that didn't have at that time chlorine to kill a lot of the bacteria and harmful parasites and filtration systems that we would later have. In fact, we've given all the credit for a long life to vaccines. Okay. But then we have taken another more honest and more accurate look and said, well, hold on. People were living very short lifespans. I mean, very short, in their 20s and 30s in the 17 and 18, 1900s. And so what made the difference? Clean water, availability of fresh fruits and vegetables and quality proteins year-round, having central plumbing so that you didn't have to go out into the outhouse. Or in old England, they'd just go in a bucket and throw it outside. And imagine that in the summertime, walking down any street. If you're to do an honest, a look at history, people lived very unsanitary lives. And they just didn't live as we do today. A lot of people never brushed their teeth. A lot of people never bathed. And they ate what they had. So if even if you were the king, you had your own game, but it was brought in. You didn't have refrigerators. You didn't have sinks to wash stuff. Everything was put on the same table and cut up and cooked or grilled. And you had too much protein. As a result, you ended up with what was known today as the royal pain, generally toes becoming very swollen and inflamed. People were in excruciating pain. They couldn't walk. That was due to the lactic acid and the purines and what we call gout. Now, we didn't know that then, but we do today. The more variety, the more varied the diet, the more different nutrients you get in, the better it is. The more you walk, the better it is. 10,000 steps, we say today, and that's just the beginning. 10 to 20,000 is much better. Vigorous exercise also. So in the middle of that 10,000 to 20,000 steps, really put the energy in, really pump those arms and go as fast as you can for about maybe, let's say, quarter mile, and then do it again. So you see, we've learned a lot, and I learned a lot. But the one thing I learned most from my travels is that you could actually create something to a life clock. Now, it's not absolute. It's not exactly precise, but it's a good general reference. Here's how it works. If you work night shift for more than 10 years, you can take up to 10 years off your life. If you smoke, depending upon how much you smoke, how many cigarettes, and how often, whether you inhale those cigarettes, you can take, again, years off your life. If you, for example, if you are working around or living around any form of electromagnetic pulses like power lines or antenna, big, the satellite dishes that bring in the signals, you can take years off your life. Drinking, depending upon what the percentage of alcohol is, how often, how much, you can take years off your life. If you're stressed, that takes a lot of years off your life. If it's chronic stress, it's all the time. And you've seen it. I'm sure all of us have at different times been under chronic stress. That disrupts your heart rhythm. That means that your heart is not evenly beating. Boom, ba-boom, 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 ba-boom. Tachycardia, myocardia, these different conditions, AFib. And yet people won't even know they have them. You could have high blood pressure, not know. That's why it's called the silent killer. All because of stress. Yeah, that is the one thing that will prematurely age you more than anything else. So once I put all these things together, what takes off years off a normal lifespan, but then I saw the things that add years to a lifespan. The good news, more fruits and vegetables, more variety, years onto your life. Exercising, years onto your life. And de-stressing, years onto your life. Those three issues alone, exercise, stress management, or at least dealing with the issues that are going to happen to all of us in our transitions and crises and dramas, as long as you're able not to become personally involved in emoting all the time, and deal with meditation and counseling so you can get past this, let it go. In life, ultimately, we have to let everything go. Right now, I'm in a studio. I'm in a beautiful home that I designed and built on a piece of property that was just woods that now is beautiful. It's an animal, a sanctuary. Okay. I also am realistic. The day will come when this will outlive me. Someone else will be in this room. Someone else will be walking the gardens, hopefully appreciating them. The suit that I'm wearing, I buy a lot of my clothes at repurposed stores. I found some of the best clothes from the 1930s and 40s, suits, that Cary Grant look. I like that. I'm 6'2", 170 pounds, all cut, and that's how he looked. And I like that look. I like the 1930s look, and I don't like the boxy look or the real tight, pant look. And I just think they were classier dressers back then, both the men and women. So I go and I'll pick up a suit, $10, $15, $20. I can recut it myself, as I do. I design my own clothes. I go out, buy the fabric. But again, there will be a time when someone will be wearing this, hopefully. I give my clothes away at the end of the year, especially those I've gone around the country lecturing on television a lot. So it gives me a chance to go out and buy more clothes. Not clothes, but buy more. I don't go out and buy clothes. I go out and buy fabric, and then I take it to the cutting board, cut down my patterns based upon my best fitting shirts and pants. And now I have something that's made in USA. Everyone made a living wage from it, and I don't overdo it. And then when I'm finished, I give it as a gift, almost always to the people in this audience. Think of over the years how often people have come once a year to my office, and all the clothes are lined up, the shirts, the pants, the suits, everything. And they're all nice, and they take them home. If you got a gift, you give a gift. You pass everything forward. Think of Socrates. He passed knowledge forward. Eurydice, Plato, they pass it forward. And as people do today, as your parents did to you, hopefully the right information. So you see, everything adds to or takes away from the years you're going to live. Everything will add to a disease or take away and prevent a disease. And about 95% of all diseases can be prevented. But then we have ways of interdicting within a disease, let's say high blood pressure. And in fact, someone that most of you know, very well-known personality, asked for my help. And when I saw the medications, I said, my God, three medications for lowering blood pressure? But then the person had acute renal failure, acute kidney failure, and the side effects of the medications, renal failure. I spoke with the doctor and I said, doctor, did you talk with the patient about the renal kidney failure, that you were causing the death of her kidneys so you could lower the blood pressure? She says, you never talked about diet, sodium intake? Well, I thought I did. No. Now that person's blood pressure is almost normal and off all those medications. Yeah, we can make a difference. But we, those of us who are properly and fully credentialed academically, who have all of our licenses, who are engaged in clinical experience, working one-on-one with individuals, and all of us who are still scientists doing quality clinical work and publishing in peer-reviewed journals, we are not considered to be a proper source. Isn't that ironic? So those who claim to have all the knowledge and all the wisdom and not to be challenged by anyone, and then there's this small little group over here, traditional Chinese medicine. I have a friend. This friend came by and had incredible hiccups, couldn't stop all day, couldn't eat, would vomit. And I would watch him 4, 5, 10 times during the day, would be bent over, gagging, had a hard time breathing. It's really serious. Went to the doctor, nothing could be done. Went to a different doctor, nothing could be done. Went to an acupuncturist that I know, a medical doctor from China, and one treatment for 30 minutes with acupuncture, hiccups gone, right? And yet, with the thousands and thousands of studies published in the peer-reviewed journal supporting Ayurvedic medicine, that's Indian medicine, and traditional Chinese medicine, acupuncture, for example, chiropractic, none of that is considered legitimate. And that's unfortunate because it is legitimate. And it's in the National Library of Medicine's peer review system. Those are the studies I use. So when you add and subtract, suddenly you will sit there and go, oh my goodness, I didn't realize what I was doing negative, being sedentary and not getting up and moving my muscles every 2 hours and overreacting to things I shouldn't overreact to and acting out. I didn't realize that was increasing my rate of heart disease and attack and stroke. I didn't realize I was eating all this extra calories. I didn't realize toxins, pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, chemicals in my diet collect and harbor in my fat. Therefore, the more overweight I am, the more toxic I am. I wasn't aware. I thought it was normal not to have a bowel movement maybe every 2 to 3 days. I didn't feel good. I felt grumpy. I didn't know it should be far more regular, even on a daily basis. I didn't know. Okay, fair enough. You didn't know, but now you do. And what do you want to do when it comes to using information? A lot of people watch this program, listen to this program, and a small percentage actually engage in it. But even what they engage is not always all of the information, but maybe a little information. What's the problem? What's the difference when people say, I got some issues and I'm going to try to find a way to resolve them in a good way. And they do it and they stick with it. And lo and behold, they don't look the same age as their peers. They look younger. Their bodies don't look the same. They have muscle. They're healthy. Their immune system is strong. They might get the flu and have minor symptoms or no symptoms. Same with the cold. And then you start to realize, yeah, there is a huge difference based upon the quality of the choices we make in life. So that just shows you that once I sit with someone and I do this, well, what kind of work you do, and are you stressed, and how many responsibilities you have, and what do you do in your life that gives you happiness and joy and pleasure and meaning? And then I look at all, and then you add them up. 10 years here, add up. 10 years there, take off. And then you say with the national, today, it's about 70, our average age span has come down to about 74 for men and 75 for women. That's terrible. What we gained in the last almost 60 years, we've wiped off in 3 years because of COVID. That's how radical the isolation and the choices we made were to our immune system in our life. So then you can help a person go from, let's stop all this, get rid of red meat. That's a big one. Let's get rid of too much estrogen in the diet. That drives cancer, the breast, the prostate, pancreas. You get rid of these. Now let's add in more. So that's why I said one of the most important things you can do is add in fruits and vegetables. The more, the better. The different colors, the better. And this is from the University of Turku, Turku in Finland. Purple fruits and vegetables can protect against diabetes. That's just one study. And look how important that could be when we have almost 90 million Americans with diabetes diagnosed and treated, or with prediabetes who will become diabetic. Turns out you may want to eat far more of the purple grapes. How about purple cabbage? One of the best things you can juice and then drink. It's great for the intestine, great for the stomach, turns off inflammation, clear out throughout your whole gastrointestinal system. How about blueberries? Yes, they contain pigments called antho, A-N-T-H-O, cyanins, C-Y-A-N-I-N-S, which may help ward off diabetes, according to the University of Turku. And they talked about the purplish tubers, which are potatoes, like purple potatoes. That's terrific, really good for you. Tastes good too, are particularly good for your health. Turns out that these pigments that make them purple can reduce the risk of diabetes by acting on energy metabolism, gut microbiota, and inflammation. They're anti-inflammatory. They turn off inflammation around the body. The effect observed in this research was even greater among foods containing anthocyanins which are alkylated, meaning that a chemical alkyl group is added to the sugar molecules of anthocyanidins. And these varieties are abundant in foods like purple potatoes, radishes, purple carrots, and purple cabbage. So, something that simple, the color of a fruit or vegetable, can help us not have one of the world's leading conditions and killing conditions. All right? Mulberries are also purplish and have that as well. So, just giving you information, hopefully you will use it. Now, the University of Pittsburgh came up with a study about increasing the vitamin B complex will lower your pancreatic cancer risk. That's correct. University of Pittsburgh researchers have uncovered an association between an increase in the intake of vitamin B6 and choline, choline, and a lower risk of cancer of the pancreas. The findings were reported in the current Journal of Cancer Epidemiology, Biomarkers, and Prevention. They looked at 63,000 men and women and found out that if you have more B2, B6, and B12 with folate, which becomes folic acid, and choline and betaine, B-E-T-A-I-N-E, over a 10-year period, you really reduce your risk by 20% minimum. So why not take a 25 milligram B1, B2, B6, all right, 500 micrograms of B12, and a common vitamin. Under therapy, you would probably take more, but that's a good start. And they found that how it prevents that cancer as well, something that's simple. And also, everything today is about nanoparticles, something so small you can't see it, but it's got a way of either organizing messages or offering messages once inside your body. But according to Cornell University, as well as the University of Binghamton, the nanoparticles in food coloring may be harmful to your gut microbiome. And that's just one area we feel that they're harmful. You'll see nanoparticles in common food coloring and anti-caking agents, and now they're saying it can damage your gut. That's not good. Specifically, metal oxide particles could be disrupting the health of your intestines. And we're consuming these on a daily basis in the average American diet. That's not good. So just try to go through your cupboard, your refrigerator, and try to look to see if there's a metal oxide nanoparticle, and don't use it, all right? The more natural, clean, and wholesome the diet, the less you're going to get these specific nanoparticles in your body, like titanium dioxide and silicon dioxide. Those are used in food, and they're going to negatively affect your intestine, which then in turn negatively affects your immune system. All right? Simple, but something that helps us if we prevent having it in our bodies. And from Drake University comes a study about being bullied is associated with mental distress and suicide attempts in teens. So I think we should have a national dialogue on this, what to do with the bullying culture, and why do we have a bullying culture, and where does it come from, and who's responsible, and who participates in it, and how can we see it before its symptoms end up hurting someone? It's there, just like addiction. We're a nation that is addicted to so many things, not just gambling and drugs and alcohol. Those are the easy culprits. We're addicted to needing other people to be a part of our lives because we don't feel we're enough to be enough in our own existence. We have a lot of problems with addiction. The addiction to insecurity. No matter what you do, it's not enough. No matter what love someone shares, it's not enough. The moment you stop getting what you thought you needed, suddenly there is no appreciation for what you've gotten up to that point. For example, I'll tell you how simple it is. How many people watching right now have spent an inordinate amount of time doing things for someone, and then one day you just decide, they can do this on their own now, and they get angry with you for no longer being responsible for what they should have been responsible for a long time ago, as if everything you did for them no longer counted or it wasn't important at the beginning. middle, or end. And now they're angry at you for not continuing. That's just enabling people. It's not helping them. So we have to have a whole national dialogue on bullying and our addiction to saving people, our addiction to being saved, mastering our story, but never getting beyond it, staying stuck in that hole, even though everyone, its friends are there to pull us out of the hole. And we say, help me, save me. And then we just kept letting go of their hands because we've identified more with the hole than we have with saving ourselves. There's an old concept of this, that think of the people who would rather walk around an oasis in the desert, embracing the scars of their remorse, than just take a step onto the oasis and have the fruit, the water, and the environment to survive. And that's a lot of people. How you identify. If you identify as a victim, every single thing you see and do, you're going to see yourself as a victim in that in some way. You'll use it against other people, even your friends and family. Well, we're into that big time. So we need a conversation on bullying because it didn't happen in a vacuum. Now, we've always had bullying, but it's just generally been individuals. And those individuals were not appreciated by the rest of society. And other people who could stop the bullying did so. It's not happening today. This was published in the journal PLOS One. And so I'll be doing programs on it. I'm going to be doing a documentary. I'm finishing up my current documentary. We're in post-production. I'll be coming back to New York to premiere it probably in the next 6 weeks. Now, from the university in Finland, sustained aerobic exercise increases adult neurogenesis in the brains, meaning that you increase the neuron reserve of the hippocampus and thus improve preconditions of learning by promoting neurogenesis through sustained aerobic exercise like jogging, power walking, running. And that's very important because it actually gives a positive effect upon the brain structure and function. For example, the generation of neurons, which is called neurogenesis in the hippocampus, a brain structure important to learning. And now we see that the more exercise, the more you help your brain. You keep it younger. You keep it healthier. You keep your capacity to think and do critical intellectual chores better. All right? So just that simple exercise. And finally, a positive attitude about aging reduces the risk of dementia in older adults. Yale University. Research has shown that older persons who have acquired positive beliefs about old age, but from their surrounding culture, are less likely to develop dementia. And yet, just think of how we deal with aging today. We fear it. We don't talk about it. Yet every time you look around, you're seeing someone who's been surgically enhanced or had, a multi-billion-dollar industry of making our skin look better or hair from falling out. And it's a big deal. But we're not doing the right things that could really slow down and reverse the aging process, add years onto our life. Why? Because it takes an effort. Someone recently said, Gary, you're a taskmaster. And I said, okay. I hope I am. Because if I wasn't, if I went about trying to help you save your life the way you've gone about destroying your life, you'd be dead. And so maybe, if you only give a small measure towards helping yourself, and the rest is the disease, then you're in a race against the disease. And the disease is way ahead of you, 20, 30, 40 years ahead of you. So shouldn't you put all your energy and make that the single most important priority in your life? Of course you should, but you don't. You do a little bit, a little bit. I have a friend, and this friend is during this person's entire life that I've known this person, they can't finish anything, nothing. They're a good person, fun to be around, great sense of humor. But in just doing one thing, cleaning out their bedroom, just one little room, right? It's been 2 years and they haven't been able to do it. and say, oh, I took a bag out. I can go into any room in the world and clean it out in about an hour. And I've cleaned out an entire house in one day. It was about 300 bags, big, giant garbage bags of garbage, but it got done. It's how we associate our efforts with what we hope will be the results. And if you don't want to change, here's something I haven't shared with you. Think about this for a moment. This is actually going to be in my clip I do every day on Classroom on the Air. And I take a different topic that we can think about and hopefully learn from and change our perception. Think of all the people that could do things if they committed 100% to doing them. Because once you commit yourself 100%, you're going to do it. And hopefully, if you do it at a high level of consciousness, you'll do it right. But then there are those people who fear at a subconscious level, what's going to happen if I actually finish something and it's not done the way it should be done? I'm going to get criticized. So rather than being criticized for doing something wrong, I just won't ever finish it. What won't I finish? Anything, everything. I'll engorge myself with emotional hoarding. You may not see it in front of me. I may not have 16, piles of garbage over in the corner, but up here, I'm completely stuffed with all the wrong emotions about how I feel. I'm not going to do anything that's going to make me feel better. I have someone else because of my childhood, and someone criticized me for not being right and doing it right. And I held on to that as if it's real today. It's not real today, but I use it as an excuse. And hence, so when I ask the person, well, is it cleaned up yet? No, but I'm working on it. Well, that's been 2 years to clean one room. Where do you think that person's life's going to go? Nowhere. They're just in this constant circle. Now, how many other people are the same way? They can't get out of the predictable comfort of not taking risks, not repurposing their emotions. So anyhow, the idea is the older we get in our society, the more likely we are to just look at death, the end of things. We're seeing friends die, pets die, and we think, oh my God, I'm left. And then one day people end up alone and are lonely. They even are lonely prior to being alone. And they don't know what to believe in because they're told you're no longer useful, you're no longer important. Dr. Harari said, you're just you are useless and worthless eater of food. We'll do something to keep you, distracted with some kind of virtual reality headset. But outside of that, you play no role. You're no longer relevant. You think, wow, I'm no longer relevant. Phone doesn't ring. Nobody asked me for my advice to do anything. Yeah, I guess they're all right. No, they're all wrong. You're relevant to the moment you die because you have a life force in you that has accumulated all your experiences, that has forgotten nothing. You may not remember them all, but they're all there. Why not find a reason to look at the age you are in a positive way? We just posted a picture. I believe it got up last night. It's a picture Luann sent me. And it's a picture of seniors all finishing the state championship recently. And look at the people, because everyone, John Q said, let's take a pose. Everyone was taking a pose, Luann and John Q, John Talley. And look at their physiques. Look at their physiques. They have physiques of, at least 3 of the people have physiques as if they were 25 years old. They're not. They don't fear aging. It's just another challenge to show they're going to keep themselves relevant intellectually, emotionally, and culturally, and also looking at all the domestic and foreign issues that impact us and becoming more aware. And these people are always cutting edge, but they make sure that the choices they bring into their life every day are positive. They understand the negative, but they don't become absorbed by it. Remember, what the opposition wants in this world is to get you no longer believing that you have any authority, any power, and can change nothing. And as long as you believe, I'm just one person, Gary, who am I? I'm a nobody. Okay. Well, that's not true. You are somebody. This Sunday in Washington, D.C., at the Lincoln Memorial at around noon, there's going to be people coming together, all walks of life, all cultures, ethnicities, all the belief systems, They're not all the one mind, except on one issue: stop the war. Now, we don't have an anti-war movement in the United States. Isn't that something? We have all these wars. We have no anti-war movement. What happened? Change that wasn't good happened. Collective change, cultural change, political change, and then individual change, or simply feeling, I don't count. You do count. Every single important movement in history started with one person coming up with an idea and then other people gravitating to it. Sometimes it took long after their life for people to appreciate how ahead of the curve and how right they were. So you count. So don't look at the fact you're a year older as somehow you're a year closer to death. You're a year wiser. You're a year with more patience. You're a year with more feeling. You're a year where you're seeing the world for what it is. And hopefully you're a year where more people come to you for that deep knowledge you have that other cultures have always appreciated and used. That's the latest on health and healing, and even some thoughts about life itself. I'm Gary Null. We're going to take a break. And some people just like to listen to health and nutrition, and fine. And you can watch this over PRN.Live. But then we have a whole lot more program to go with a lot of new insights. I think you'll appreciate what's coming at you. And always go to GaryNull.com. That's where you'll see that photograph under gallery, under photographs. And there you'll see it. Well, if they can look that way at that age, why can't I? And that's the issue. One last thing. I was in this happened twice, once in Atlanta, once in West Palm Beach. I just finished doing a PBS show, and I wanted to get the last flight out. And I'm sitting there, and this guy came over to me and says, "Didn't I just see you tonight on PBS?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Hey, I really enjoyed what you had to say about getting healthy." And he said, "I have to admit, I don't follow all that advice, but I told my wife on the phone, as long as he looks that healthy and that good, there's time for us to change." I said, "Well, good." I said, "But when will that change start? You don't want to wait too late, because then you're going to be suffering in the process. A person shouldn't have to suffer obesity or diabetes or arthritis until they say, 'Doctor, do I have to change?' The doctor says, yeah, you got to change. Otherwise, the disease is going to speed up. Your life will end." And I said, "So how old are you?" He said, "I'm 38. My wife is 37. And you're right. I'm on the next flight back to Chicago, and I'm going to start. I said, good for you. So sometimes if you are the only one in your family or friends that are interested in real health and more comprehensive health, more inclusive health, and your friends may be envious of you or jealous of you or indifferent to you, but what happens if the day comes when they get sick? Who do you think they're going to look to for some advice? You. All right? And then maybe if their mind is open, the time is right, then you can share what you have without it being offensive to them or an intrusion upon their freedom of choice. Because their freedom of choice has gotten them sick. Just saying. Back in a moment. Please stay with us.
Well, look no further than PRN.Live, the home for progressive voices.